Hi, I'm JD Mon, and today we're going to get real about what it actually takes to scale a company without losing yourself, or your vision, in the process. This session was recorded live at the Big Dipper Innovation Summit created by JMI, where leaders in business, culture, and technology come together and explore the ideas and industries shaping what's next. This is How Does She Do It? Women founders maintaining, innovating, and scaling. Kenya Blake, Vice President and General Manager of Horizon Innovations, moderates this powerful conversation with three founders who are navigating the complexities of scaling with intention. Kristin Richardson, founder and CEO of Sherah, built a tech-enabled personal assistant platform that supports busy families nationwide. Meg Pride, founder and CEO of Brandify, is delivering luxury beauty at accessible prices. And Katina Jones, founder and CEO of Icon Realty Group, is building wealth through a variety of real estate services. What you'll hear is how these women maintain their innovation, how they maintain their innovative edge while scaling without compromise.
Well, welcome to the Big Dipper's How Does She Do It panel. I'm Kenya Blake, I'm our conversation facilitator, and today we have these three just fabulous, groundbreaking founders, CEO powerhouses with us. They're going to share their stories about innovating, scaling, leading through change, and keeping the fire alive that initiated their concept of the business all the way up to where they are today. Today we have Kristin Richardson, founder and CEO of Sherah, an innovative platform that helps support and empower women. Sherah connects women with a community of female personal assistants who want to help you stay sane and be successful. When I met Kristin, I told her, I've often complained to my husband, I just need a wife. If I had one, I could get done what I need to do. And Sherah is that wife. We also have Meg Pride, founder and CEO of Brandify, a digital hub for premium quality, affordable beauty products that's sending those overpriced luxe brands into a tailspin. Meg has taken Brandify from concept to launch and through an acquisition and continues leading its exciting trajectory. And lastly, we have the incomparable Katina Jones, founder and CEO of Icon Realty Group. In less than 10 years, Katina has grown her small but mighty team of 5 to a sensational team of 75. And they are killing the real estate game in Richmond and in Rico. And I don't know how she finds the time, but she's also a business coach. She's also a public speaker. And by the way, she's an author of Lipstick and Legacies. You can find it on Amazon. As you're listening to the discussion, please don't forget, don't lose those questions. Send them in so that we can spend the last 15 minutes going through your organic questions that have come up for the panel. And with that, panelists, you ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. Good. The first question I'm just going to toss out there. Whoever wants to grab it, and then we'll go from there. How have your business models evolved since your concept to the launch to where you are today, and what pushed those changes? What made you make those shifts? Katina?
Okay, all right. Well, my business model has totally changed since I first started. So when I went independent, I've been in real estate for 20 years. I've been a broker owner for 10 years. Actually, next year will be our 10-year anniversary, next February. Big party, y'all, probably right here, so, just stay tuned. But so when I started, I honestly did not have these visions of grandeur. Like I had a small real estate team, it was about 5 of us, and I just really wanted my independence. I wanted my freedom. I was ready to be a true entrepreneur. I really didn't want to grow my business the first 2 years that I started it. I was very afraid I had some apprehensions around growing too fast, becoming too large too soon. And I know a lot of people aspire to that. They want to be the fastest growing and they want to be the largest. Well, that just wasn't my goal, especially not at that time. So probably the first 3 years of my business, we stayed smaller than 10. Coming into, I guess, around 4 or 5 years, I decided it was time to grow. I was ready. I had gotten my legs under me, being a CEO, being a business owner. I felt more comfortable, and I was ready to grow. Right around that time, my husband came into the business, and he had a totally different vision of growth. Now, he did have all of this vision of grandeur. But when I started looking at growth, we started looking at spaces, and I said, okay, well, if we double our numbers, we're around 8 or 10 now. If we get to 20 agents and maybe 2 more staff people, that's great. That's a wonderful size brokerage. And so we had started out in Churchill with about 800 square feet. And I said, well, I'll get 1,600 square feet, maybe 1,800 max. That'd be perfect. double the agents, double the size of the building. And so Robert said, nope, we're going to grow more than that. We're going to need more than that. Let's go bigger. We'll go 3 times as big. We'll go to 3,000 square feet. So I'm like, well, why in the world would we want to do that? Everything is manageable, cost effective. We can vacation and sleep at night. Why are we going to do this? Well, long story short, we did. We opened the second location in Rockets Landing and really began to launch Icon, as many of you know it today. And then we did begin to ramp up and grow very quickly, getting up until about 80 agents and multiple divisions.
80.
So,
I just want to make sure everyone hears the 80.
80.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
80.
And so we have multiple divisions: commercial, residential. We did not have commercial when we started out. It's not my thing. I'm a residential girl. It's more warm and fuzzy transaction. Commercial is totally different. Robert launched our commercial division. We launched our luxury division, and we launched our new construction division. So today is very different than day one.
Wow. So awesome. So good.
Sure, yeah. We started out as a completely different business. My background is in consumer packaged goods, and we would put the exact same product into 2 different containers, sell one for $80 and one for 10. And as a consumer, I was completely appalled that that was happening and thought that there would be a way to use community and technology to help consumers know when it's worth it to pay up for something or when they could get the same thing for less. And so we started doing grocery store comparisons, and over time we added beauty comparisons. And then eventually we realized consumers were only coming back for beauty products. And the business evolved from there to the point where we ended up using the data from our mobile app that had become a beauty product comparison app to launch our own skincare line 3 years down the line. So it was a huge evolution in how we made money, how the business worked. And what drove that every single time was our customers and the people actually using the product. Even though we might have gotten different advice from investors or friends or family, we always went with what our customer wanted.
And so now she manufactures beauty products, and she will tell you I am her biggest customer and her biggest fan. You need to run to brandify.com and purchase her vitamin C serum right now, men and women.
Thank you.
It is, everyone asks me, what do I use? I'm like, Meg Pride's Brandify vitamin C serum and glow serum, retinol cream at night. I just slather it all over my body.
So she is our best model. We will take all the credit.
And it's like a third of the price of the leading brands out there, hence the name Brandify.
Yes, Defy Brands.
It's amazing.
Thank you. I am also a Sherah customer, and I will dive more into that later, I'm sure, in a question response.
Well, I love this question around iteration and innovation as a founder, because I spent 25 years in corporate America working for large companies. I worked in branding and marketing and product development and executive leadership teams, and I was always in services like banking, finance, legal, healthcare, always selling services. And while I I guess I enjoyed it and succeeded in it, right? I moved up, I was in the C-suite for many years. I was always frustrated with the lack of innovation. Even if I was on innovation teams, even if I was like handling an acquisition and merging the acquisition that was acquired for innovative purposes, I was always frustrated. Things were never moving fast enough for me. I always wanted everything faster, better, smarter. And ask anyone who has worked with me in corporate America, I annoyed the hell out of everyone for that reason, to be honest with you. And I look back on it and I recognize I was probably a difficult coworker, to be honest with you. But I think because corporate America is more change resistant and it's harder to move the battleship, that is what creates a lot of entrepreneurs and founders, because if you can't create that innovation spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit internally, you get frustrated, you see a pain point, you have this expertise that you've developed for many years, and you go off and you do your own thing and you become your own boss. And while I love innovation and pivoting, I will say as a high-tech, fast-growth startup, I wasn't expecting in only 2 years of being in business, you are expected as a founder of a high-growth startup to constantly be iterating and pivoting. So be careful what you ask for, because investors want you to constantly be learning and testing and pivoting. Someone just asked me earlier today, hey, what happened to that pricing plan on your website? I was like, oh, we tested that last month. Like, we are constantly iterating the labor model, the pricing model, the service delivery model. You constantly have to test, learn, iterate, test, learn, iterate, and it's super fun. So if you love doing that and you love failing and learning from it, go for it. But it's also really stressful.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this whole business model evolution conversation. You grew your business, you went into other areas of real estate. You changed your focus to eventually you just get to really focusing on cosmetics led by the consumer, keeping the consumer front and center there. What were the signals? How did you know, like, it's time for me to do something different? It's time for me to expand the business. It's time for me to be more focused in the business. Like, what was the thing that said it's time? How do you know? Or how do you make sure you know so that your business is continuing to grow and develop?
I know I have my.
I think for me it was two things. It's two things. Always our clients. Your clients will tell you. They'll have questions you can't answer, or you may feel uncomfortable. I always tell my people, let's challenge ourselves to stay uncomfortable. So when we're too complacent, when we're too relaxed and we're too comfortable, it's time for us to do something different. It's time for us to add to it. But really, mostly it's meeting the demands of our client. As our business, our brand, Icon's brand, grew a lot faster than the business did, if that makes sense. Like, the brand voice was really getting out there and penetrating before we were actually increasing in numbers. So we were tapping into the luxury market, and we needed to become more savvy in that area. And we were having builders to come to us and say, hey, we're gonna build 100 homes. Do you have a team that support us? And so it pushed us to kind of stick our toe into that new construction market and create that division so that we could service that client. Our clients are mostly professionals, and so they would say, okay, well, thank you for helping us with a home, but my business now needs a new location. Can you help us with that? And these are all various areas of the industry that's more niche parts of the market and specialty parts. And so it's not something that any one person is going to do all of it. And so it even changed our recruiting model for bringing in different agents that have different levels of specialties and not simply just a real estate license.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I agree. If you are listening to your customers, you will know. And in the case of actually when we started as a grocery product comparison app, we put a test in our mobile app where we could see, is someone looking at makeup or beauty products versus is somebody looking at anything else? And then I actually looked at the retention of the people who are looking at makeup and beauty products versus the retention of the other group. So I think you can design, you'll start to have a question in your mind. You can design a test that will answer that question over a period of time.
But you have to have that mindset of constantly questioning, right? Like being curious. You are rewarded for being curious, right? As a business owner who wants to grow quickly.
So what I'm hearing is, the consumer's king, keeping the main thing, the middle.
Yeah, what are they buying?
Yeah.
Right?
And then I loved what you said, Katina. I'm gonna wordsmith it a little bit because this is something Kristin and I was talking about a couple days ago. My motto is the growth, the magic is outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you got to keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone because that's the sweet spot. That's where the magic happens. That's where you grow your business and you enter other fields or you get real sharp with it and you say, I'm gonna focus right here and we're gonna ride this into the sunset, you know? So I love that. Let's talk about what happens when you start scaling up. And my bias is to say is that as you're scaling up, you do need to have some more traditional infrastructure in place. How do you do that, but still stay agile, still stay innovative, still stay really close to the consumer that got you to where you are and where you're going? How do you do those two things together?
That is hard. That is hard. And we're even a small business. We've only been in business for 2.5 years. We serve hundreds of women and families across the country in 21 states. We have workers in 6 states. We started here, homegrown, only 2 years ago. And I've bootstrapped it for 2.5 years. It's amazing. And yet only 2.5 years later, I'm already not in the day-to-day, right? My head of operations, Samantha, my business partner, is here. And even we've grown so quickly, even she isn't involved in that much of the day-to-day. She's all focused on recruiting and growing us to other markets. And all of a sudden I've become removed from listening. I used to run to Target, right? Like I was doing the onboarding calls. I was booking the health. I was personally doing these things and listening to the customer every single day of what she needed in her busy life. And then suddenly Samantha was doing it. And then we had 3 assistants and 5 assistants, and now we have 25 assistants, plus Sam and me and a tech director, and even I'm out of it, right? And that's hard. We have a customer here today, Kate. Are you here still, Kate? I didn't even know she was my customer, right? Like we had an assistant here today, and she was like, by the way, I think I drove that woman's Tesla to get it, like the tire fixed a few months ago. Like, you know, you get that big, and I'm like, I don't even know who she is, and I had to go introduce myself to her. But I hate that feeling where you suddenly are growing so quickly that you are no longer emotionally listening to the pain point you are trying to solve for. Because for us, we are not just a little personal assistant service. We are trying to empower women and create gender parity at the very tops of corporations, nonprofits, and governments across the world. That is our mission. So we are trying to fully understand the pain point of what keeps women in the workforce and what keeps them feeling supported and not stalling or dropping out of the workforce. And suddenly I'm not crying on onboarding calls like I used to be with these women when they show up enormously stressed out and saying, I can't do this, I feel like a complete failure. And so now I miss that. And so now we record them, I log on, I listen to the onboarding calls when I can still listen to it. I spot check the back end of our systems. We have 6 integrated systems fully running it now. And I'm spot checking and I'm looking for the emotion, the qualitative data that is in there, in addition to the quantitative as well of what people are looking for and what the market is buying. But because I think that's really critical when you're building a product and your messaging is not just the quantitative, but qualitatively, what does your messaging and service delivery need to be? And so for us, when we're targeting very busy women and moms and families, I mean, for example, the guilt the guilt factor that women and moms have to juggle career and family and aging parents and all those things. Katina has 5 children, by the way, amazing, on top of having, 80 agents. I wouldn't know that by just looking at the data, that there's this guilt factor that I need to work on. And so it's hard as you're building systems and processes and infrastructure, but still trying to be really connected to the customer and the pain point you're solving for. I think the best thing is be intentional about it and don't just chase the dollars.
I probably would quote you, you have to be very intentional, staying in touch and staying connected. I mean, with your staff and with your clients as you're scaling can be very, very challenging because a lot of your time you're trying to work on your business and you're not working in it as much. And so I can remember talking to my managing broker and I said, I don't want us to get like these mega pastors that have so many members, they don't even know their name. And then I had to take it back because I would find myself texting her in a meeting and an agent is walking the door. I'm like, oh my God, what's her name? What is her name? And so I said, okay, well, this is how I know that I have to put systems in place to stay connected. And sometimes that's through my staff. Sometimes it's through our technology and how we communicate. And our clients, we make sure that we have touches with our clients. Some of those touches are directly from me and some are not. But staying connected to them, being able to stay agile, really asking for feedback. We're constantly asking for feedback from our agents, whether through surveys or open forums or masterminds that we may have. And we do similar things with our clients. But it gets challenging as you're growing and, that mega pastor feeling starts to set in but you just have to figure out new ways to communicate and I think the word is intentional, just really being intentional about it and not chasing the transaction, the dollars, but more the overall relationship.
Yeah. Have there been any sacred cows where you say, I'm never going to stop doing this or I'm never going to stop doing that no matter how big we get? Is there anything that you have to protect?
So I do customer service for at least a month out of the year, and I love that because it gives me a really clear picture of what customers' problems are, what people love, because our glowing reviews go to that email, so that's very rewarding. And just recently, I accidentally took the customer service phone with me on vacation. So 7 a.m. I was answering phone calls, but I think I will continue to do that for at least a month a year, just going forward.
Love that.
Okay.
I love that. For us, some sacred cows are no matter how big we get, we will never create a workforce that does not work for women and moms. And I know we work in an environment now with return to work, return to office mandates, and we're trying to all get back to the office a little bit. There's a lot of health and well-being to that, to all of us getting out of our homes and interacting in person. I absolutely believe in that. At the same time, suddenly implementing RTO mandates, and next week you have women who have a lot of childcare duties, needing to be back in the office does not work for moms and families. So no matter how big we get, we have to make that work for families.
All right. Let's shift and talk about leadership and vision. How has your leadership style evolved from maybe conceptually when you had your business idea to launch to where you are now? And what's driving that leadership style evolution?
Well, I've duplicated myself. I've had to duplicate myself. When you start a business, you start out as the owner, you're the accountant, you're the secretary, you're the janitor. You're all things that make that business work. And then when you do start to scale and you do start to grow, you just can't continue with that. So delegating has been huge. I've been blessed with a great leadership team. It's about 8 on our leadership team now. My first addition was a managing broker, with me being principal. So she took on a lot of the day-to-day functions that directly impact the agent, supporting the agent. Then we added on 2 supervising brokers and a sales manager. And that's just for the residential side. Then we have that for the commercial side. So for me, the duplicating myself, because I just could not continue to do it all, which is a good thing. And then being able to delegate, hiring talented people, creative minds, innovative minds, intelligent risk takers that can come to the table with you, share the vision. I call it being believers, demonstrators, and supporters of the vision. And so when you have those people and you have their buy-in and you have their loyalty, these are the people that you can bring to the table, and you trust when you say, okay, we're going to launch this, or we're going to try this, or what do you think? What are your new thoughts today? Then, you have the right people at the table, and you can begin to duplicate yourself and implement the vision and delegate those things that you were doing all on day one.
Was that a hard move to let some of that stuff go?
Yes. I'm a type A. So any other type A's out there, ladies? I know I'm not the only one. And so we think that we know the best way, and we want to be able to control and manipulate that situation the way that we want to see it manifest. And so I had to learn. It was not natural for me to delegate. Taking it all on and multitasking was very natural. Being a workaholic, doing something I love, was very natural. Giving myself a break and allowing other people to take on some of the load was not as natural. But I'm very, very happy. I've mastered it now, guys. I'm very happy that I've mastered it. So, it wasn't natural, and it was a tough change, but a necessary one.
Meg, do you have anything you want to add to that, or?
My style has changed as well. And I think passion is something that's just inherent when you're starting a company, and it can come across in a lot of different ways, and not all of them are necessarily healthy ways.
Right.
And I've had incredible mentors, some of whom that I speak with, on a weekly basis for an hour. I've also had a leadership coach, and I think that's really allowed me to grow from kind of a passionate entrepreneur who's just trying to get something off the ground into more of like a collected and calm leader that can manage a P&L and grow a P&L. And that is oftentimes 2 different people. Mm-hmm. And I feel very lucky that I did my leadership coach through Startup Virginia. They paid for it. So I feel very lucky that I have had resources that have supported me in that way, in that kind of growth.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I didn't get offered that.
Well,
We're Startup Virginia.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Why didn't I
No,
get that?
You should. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
need that.
helpful, yeah.
How many of you are in corporate America now? Like, getting that paycheck, big company, right? Looks like about half of you. I grew up in corporate America, 25 years, and I went through all the leadership training, right? There's so many programs, there's so many workshops. The resources they provide you with are amazing, especially when early in your career. I have to admit, all that went out the window once you start this company, because it is a whole different ballgame, and there is no time. There is no bandwidth in the day when you are marketing, IT, finance, raising, you're fixing the website, you're doing the emails, you're doing the like in the beginning, you are literally doing everything in the beginning. And then you're also supposed to stop and have the bandwidth to remember to create the onboarding experience, and what are the 5 values, and how do I impart the 5 values, and when are my one-on-ones with people, and how do I instill my vision and make sure everyone is a brand ambassador and they can speak the vision, and we have all trained them in the customer experience that embodies the vision, all the things we've been trained on in teamwork and leading everyone equally and servant, all those things, right, that you have been taught. It's lovely, but for me, I just haven't figured out how to balance all of that. And so I will say hats off again to Samantha Preddy, who's here on my team. We always joke about how she's the yin to my yang. I'm a little intense, and I'm all about the spreadsheet. I live and die by a spreadsheet. And she is kind and thoughtful, and she's always glass half full. I'm always glass half empty. She's always the one who stops and says, we need a team meeting. We literally were about to have a team meeting last week, and I was like, we need to make sure we hit boom, 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 boom. We got to remind them of this. And she was like, and we need to inspire them. And we need to remind them of how amazing this cause is. I was like, yeah, oh yeah, that's right. And we need to, blah, blah. And it's, they preach to you at Startup Virginia and Lighthouse Labs, and other investors will talk to you about the importance of a co-founder and having that balance. And I have discovered that is really important. It's like a marriage, right? Like you can't have two people who are the same. Like if there were two of me in a marriage, it would blow up. If there were two of me, running the business, it would burn out in about a week. And so, I think it's interesting reflecting back on corporate America, you don't have that person. Like you run a department, right? You run a team. You're expected to do it solo with your own set of skills, your own personality. You may have like a work wife or a work husband. That's kind of the joke we all make. And they might run another team or another department. Maybe the two of you talk a lot and trade stories and try to help each other manage your teams. But you don't have that combining of the brains to help complement your skill set to grow the company and run it. And that's something that's really beautiful about running your own company that I think corporate America could learn from. Mm-hmm. How do we take managers and complement their skill set more and give them more support? We can't all be everything.
Up next, the decision-making frameworks these founders use when growth and values collide, and why adaptability might be their most powerful advantage.
I love that idea of complementing and rounding your team out. So that you have it covered. Also, I think it's a real gem is making sure you get the right mentors. You talked about mentors. Mentors are really important. And you probably were very intentional about the skill sets that the mentor had or set of experiences that your mentor had. That can really make a big difference. Yeah. A good sounding board, especially if you can develop a relationship with the mentor that you truly trust, because then I think the more honest you can be with your mentor, the more you get out of that relationship. So I love that. I love that nugget.
That's true. I have started to learn the concept of sponsorship, and I will say in corporate America especially, the more people can be sponsors, not just mentors and allies, because we need people to be, again, that word intentional. We need people to be more intentional about bringing others along, including them in meetings, bringing them along to initiatives, giving them the opportunity to prove themselves, especially with women. Women are more likely to feel like they have to check every single box before they will self-nominate to run a team, to run an initiative in corporate America. And yet a man will check 5 of the boxes and be like, I'm qualified, and throw their name in the hat very quickly. I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, but they're not the same, and guess who ends up getting the opportunity? So until we fix the confidence crisis, we need people to actually put women forward more often and bring them along and put them into the environment where they can be highlighted and thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just before we leave this topic around leadership and vision, I want to talk a little bit about how do you make the trade-offs for your vision? So how do you kind of balance what you need to do today, the investments you need to make for today versus the investments and what you need to do for tomorrow, the long term, to where you're trying to go? Because all of you are these powerful vision creators that you drive to. So how do you do that today versus I got this big, bold vision, and I want to make sure I get that too.
That's a hard
Okay.
one. You go. Got it.
We focus a lot on short-term goals.
Okay.
Okay. Now we have the vision. We know what we want this to look like a year from now, 5 years from now. Kind of maybe what we may want it to look 10 years from now. But it's more of our more immediate goals that when we're meeting in our sales meeting or our one-on-ones, our coaching, we're looking week to week, we're looking month to month, and we're looking at each quarter. I really changed my mindset on it because I think coming up, we were all taught, we were all taught you got to have a business plan, a year out, 5 years, 10 years, but you don't really, you start focusing on these big, long goals and not enough attention on the short goals. So I'm going to use an analogy. I know we just had sports up here, but I'm a golfer, so I can't help it. Are there any other golfers out here? I know I see one. Okay. All right, so golfers. So when you want to lower your handicap, what part of your game do you work on? Who said it? You work on your short game, right? So a lot of people, when they come out to the range, they want to hit that driver. They want to hit those woods because those are those big, long, beautiful shots, and they travel the furthest. And then you get to the hole, and it's like a game of toss across, and so they're never really making that goal of par because they only focused on the big, long, beautiful shots. And so those of us who do golf, we know that the game is won about 40 yards from the hole. And so that really changed my perspective on golf. And on business from golf. It just changed my perspective. And so we began really saying, okay, short term, what are we going to do? It's so much easier to wrap your mind and your arms around to become more effective sooner, because sometimes just focusing on the long-term goals, you become a little discouraged. Because we've been talking about, innovation and creativity, having to pivot, having to be agile, and how much of that will change immediately that long-term goal. And so if that's all you have to focus on, if you have nothing more intermediate, you become discouraged and frustrated and stressed out very quickly. Just like those people who can hit those 300-yard, 350 drivers, but they can't hit the chip or the putt.
I love that.
I love a good analogy.
That was so good.
Yeah, that covered it.
What she said. I know.
Yeah.
So good. And I needed that wisdom today because I actually, right before we came up here, my head of ops and I were sitting there looking at some numbers for this month because you live and die by the short-term numbers, right? Especially when you're talking to investors. And we were like, well, do we do this and focus on the short term, or do we because we know the impact long term, and I needed that wisdom today. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I need you to fix my golf game.
Okay.
I know, and I need to. That was so good.
Thank you.
It's true.
So you said the magic word, investors. How are you negotiating that space? How have you navigated investor conversations? I don't know if you have board dynamics as your company has grown. How have you managed that?
Well, you have already gone through, so you can speak to
Meg,
probably the most.
managed through an acquisition.
No, we have not been acquired or acquired another company, but we have raised $5 million to date.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is your
That's
question.
huge.
And I feel very grateful that early on I met investors who were interested in investing in this type of company. And I also got a ton of wonderful coaching on how to raise money. And it is a very specific process that is much like a sales process, and that you can manage like a sales process. And there are so many small tips around like etiquette that I didn't know until I had gone through the process of like how to approach someone, how to send a follow-up email that pushes someone through the funnel. So when I was raising that amount of money was over a long period of time. We started with a friends and family round that was, $125,000, and I actually closed it the day before I got married. Terrible idea, do not recommend. It was very stressful. And from there, the rounds got progressively larger as your company grows. And what's interesting about it is early on, I think it is a lot harder because you are asking investors to invest in you when you don't have a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. Later on, it's a lot, I wouldn't say it's easier, but it's different because you're showing a lot of numbers and facts, whereas early on you might not have those. So I learned a lot about like the etiquette in the process, how you run a sales process to bring people through that funnel. Just for perspective, we pitched probably 130 investors when we raised a Series Seed, so $1.7 million round. Probably 115 said no, 10 didn't respond, and the other 5 said yes. Like that's kind of the numbers that you're looking at when you go through that. And I think it is one of the more trying times of being an entrepreneur, is when you're raising money. And then I've also had really incredible raises where it's like you pitch 2 people and you're done. Like your raise is done. So I think it can go either way depending on your stage of business. And yeah, happy to talk to anybody about that afterwards. I love walking people through kind of what that process looks like.
How did you learn about that process? So if we have some people who are contemplating being entrepreneurs, some early entrepreneurs, and they're thinking about how am I going to raise funds to see this vision through? Not that they're going to learn how to do it all here today, but like, what direction do you push them into? What is the first thing they have to do?
So one of my investors wrote a book, and I do not recall the name of the book, but I do know my investor's name, and her name is Divya Gugnani, and it's now available on Amazon, and it's a how to raise. And I assume that I need to read the book, but I assume it's exactly kind of the process that I use, since I learned that process from meeting with a lot of other founders and just picking up small pieces of information in every meeting. And also you can ask investors too. I think the best way to get to know an investor is to ask for advice first, and you want to build that relationship. And I think that's part of what I love about Richmond as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, is that people want to help each other. And so you can approach investors for guidance or advice or other founders. And I really love that about this area.
That's wonderful.
I want to.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, there are so many resources here in Richmond, and the Big Dipper Summit has done a great job of bringing those people to this room over the past 2 days. Lighthouse Labs and Startup Virginia and the Metropolitan Business League are phenomenal resources. But even having gone through many of these programs, I still went to Meg and said, so what does the first email look like that you should send? And she very graciously just was so transparent and was like, this is what my first email looked like. This is what my follow-up email looked like. This is what they're looking for. This is what like my initial data room looked like. This is what like the data room maybe looked like in the next stage when I moved to the, like literally spelled it out for me. And no one had ever done that. I will be forever indebted to you for that, because she just completely opened it all and was so vulnerable in doing that. And I hope to be able to pay that forward one day. I am learning through this process. Apparently I'm in legal trouble, by the way, because who knew when you're raising, you're not allowed to tell people you're raising.
Yeah, that's true. Well, at least publicly. You can't say it publicly.
So apparently I am not supposed to sit up here publicly and tell you that I'm raising, right? So I'm going to tell you I'm not raising. And I get in trouble for that, right? Because apparently the SEC is going to come after you if you tell people that, because I have the potential to reach like non-accredited investors with that message, right? And they're trying to protect you as a consumer and potential investor. At the same time, as someone who did not grow up wealthy, I do not mix and mingle with wealthy people. how do I find the investors? Like how do I, they teach you, okay, you need a list of 100 people before you even start. Okay, can I Google that? Like, where's the list of 100 people, right? Like, how do you do that? And so you do have to get so comfortable in this process of being an entrepreneur and raising, of just being vulnerable, being so vulnerable, and just saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. Will you please help me? And would you be willing to share with me how you did it? And as you said, especially in the Richmond community, people are so unbelievably kind and generous in this market. It's such an amazing town. It really is.
Good place to be.
It really is.
Good place to be. What does success look like for you now?
The legacy for me, just the freedom of it all. But most of all, I think legacy, because my daughter works in the business with me now. And I know you cannot tell, but I am a grandmother. And so it's less about, you said this earlier, the transaction and the money and net proceeds. Those things are important, obviously, because we're running a business. But the things that, when you continue to build and you continue to grow and you're already in a comfortable, happy place, it's no longer about the money. For me, it's about legacy, what I'm leaving behind, what I'm teaching my daughters, our family, my grandchildren. We talked a little bit about mentors. My father was an entrepreneur. He has really been the big inspiration for me. He always talked about, when I was younger, having something that you can call your own, that no one can take away from you. And that's something that I've taught, my daughters, our family, and want to teach, to my grandkids. So for me, it's legacy. That's what success looks like now. Having something of value, a good name. My father always talked about maintaining a good name, your integrity. Those things are just invaluable. That's what it is for me now. Yeah,
Love that.
for sure.
Meg?
So I would love for Brandify to be a household name and to save consumers over $1 billion on their cosmetics products, while helping people feel great about being in their own skin. And I do have very specific revenue goals of where I want to take the company in the next 5 and 7 years.
Fantastic.
It's amazing.
Kristin?
This is a hard question for me emotionally. I'm such a fraud because I talked earlier about building a company that works for women, right? That works for families. And yet right now, my company, I work 7 days a week. Last Saturday, I came home from TomTom and I worked 10 hours on Saturday after having been at TomTom in Charlottesville all last week. It was intense. My husband's here in the back. Hi, Bri. He runs his own law firm. We're raising 2 kids. We have multiple aging parents with tons of health issues. Our life is just really hard right now, to be honest with you. And we work around the clock and we're not there for each other or our kids the way we want to be and should be. So my vision of success is to finally get to a point where we figure out how to balance this better, whether that's scaling it and selling it, or whether it's just still running it, but having more support to where I'm not working around the clock. I was raised by parents who worked around the clock and were not there for me and my sister. And so I wanna make sure I'm there for my kids, but I can at least say that my 2 daughters are being raised by parents who are teaching them that you have agency, you have autonomy, you have control over your ability to make a dollar and be authentically who you are and do something every day that is meaningful to you. And that's an amazing thing that I know will be our legacy to leave our kids.
It's real. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm gonna pivot to the questions from the audience. So you ready?
I think so. I don't know. I may not answer your question. I don't know.
All right, the first one we have is, when did something fail and what did you learn from it and how did you shift?
When did something fail?
And what did you learn? How did you learn from it and how did you shift?
So I think failure is just a part of a startup. Like if you are not comfortable failing, this is not the space for you. And I think it is possible to get comfortable failing too. Like you can learn that. But we launched a subscription box, and this was maybe like during COVID, trying to figure things out. And from a consumer perspective, it was great. We did like 40K in cash in a very short period of time. But we were just starting out. So that was like a lot for what we were doing. But then the unit economics on it were just terrible. So we basically didn't make any money on that revenue. And we discovered that they would actually get worse over time because you couldn't get like free beauty products from companies at a large scale. Whereas like when you're smaller, you can get them for free. And so we ended up having to canceling the program and return customers' money to them.
That's never fun.
No, it was never fun. And we still have people like saying, you gave me a lifetime discount on your products because I was a part of this program. And that's a like very clear example of failure, but I would say like I am failing multiple times a week, and that is just like part of my job.
But I don't think of it as failure anymore.
Yeah.
Do you? Right. The whole idea of being a startup founder and you're expected to grow so fast that you no longer think of it as failure. You just think of it as learning, pivoting, right? Iterating. I don't even use the word failure.
Yeah, lessons learned.
Lessons learned.
Yeah. But in a big company, I think you're not allowed to fail.
Yeah. And
a lot more
if you don't make any mistakes,
right?
you are not working hard enough.
Yeah. There's a lot more at stake at a big company. I know there is, but you're certainly not rewarded for testing and failing most of the time in a big company. I had maybe not as bad of an example, but we tested a free plan on our website. And short term, we were like, oh my God, look how many people signed up. We are like crushing it this month. We're like showing these big numbers. Look how many people are signing up for this free plan. And then they pay when they use it. Well, guess what we learned? They don't use it. If you don't have some skin in the game and be willing to put at least like $20 out a month, you don't use it. That was the learning. Like even when we're poking and prodding you and trying to get you to engage and use it and try to give us one task, no one was using it. So we had to go from, hey, potential investors, like, look how amazing we are. Look at all these people who signed up, to, oh, whoops, like next 3 months, we were like, yeah, we scratched that story. Like they didn't even use it. So then we just like wiped them off the sheet, Big learning. I didn't have to refund money, thank goodness. But, it's just a learning. It's different.
Love it. Okay, we have a really long question, so I'm going to break it up and start off with, what advice would you give young women wanting to start their own business?
You have to be ready to bet on yourself. Like,
You have to get ready to what?
to bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. Okay.
Definitely. Ready and willing to bet on yourself every day.
I was just going to say, just do it.
Totally. Just do it. I will say the biggest surprise, though, has been the people this is just my experience. I'm sure you've experienced this. The people who I thought would be my biggest fans, customers, advocates, weren't and did not show up for me. And then out of the woodwork come your biggest fans, customers, and advocates. Out of the woodwork, like the most generous people in the world, singing your praises on social media, writing reviews, being your biggest customers, connecting you to people. You don't even know where they came from. So just know that you will be surprised by it. And it's take the good with the bad. Have you
Perfect.
experienced that?
I would agree with that. I mean, I think there's some of it holds true. Like some people I would expect are still there, but it's always surprising, like who ends up coming into the round or what, you being my most glowing customer. Like it's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
You
did-
will never go back. Can I just say that?
Go ahead.
Like, I don't care how hard this is. I will never work for another person again. Like, I will drive Uber before I do it.
I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you utilize focus groups, advisory boards, or anything like that? If yes, what are best practices to keep them engaged and to gather their valuable feedback?
We have an advisory council, and ours is just a little over a year old. And I decided to establish one after being asked to participate on one. And just observing my experience, I said, oh my goodness, Icon, we could really use this. And so we set ours up with different professionals from different areas. Some are in new construction, some are not, some are other business owners. I mean, some are restaurant owners, some, work for the city, the county. Some are in our industry, builders, investors. But it's just a wealth of experiences and opinions, different approaches to business is something that has really helped us stay creative and stay innovative. It's just things I learned, and I had to become okay with the fact that my brain has taken my company this far. But, if I want to get it to the next level, I need other brains. Like I don't have it all in there. I don't have all of that experience, all of that know-how, but I know people. And I know people who know things and have more experiences than I have that I bring to the table for my business. So we engage them quarterly, and we always have a subject at hand and break them out in groups and allow them to kind of give some thought around different subject matters. And it's really made a difference. The advisory council has been a great addition to our leadership style.
That's awesome. Do you have one?
We have multiple advisors and advisory boards, and like one that's just dermatologists, one that's business, and we use user interviews and user testing more than we use focus groups, but we have done focus groups. Yeah.
Yeah, focus groups are hard.
Yeah.
You can get some very skewed research if they're not done well. Very skewed. We're curating an advisory board now for the first time. I use the word curating intentionally because we are trying to be very careful on who's on that, because everybody wants to help you. I'm actually surprised by the people who come out of the woodwork and say, I want to help you. I want to be your advisor. I want to be your executive coach. I want to suddenly you're the new shiny thing, right? And everybody wants to help you. I can't believe how many phone calls I get from male executive coaches who always want to buy me coffee and be my new coach and let me start your advisory board. And sometimes I think I will be careful, right? No matter where you are in your career, be careful about who wants to dominate your time and who wants to actually provide valuable feedback. Because they can be two different things. And so we are carefully curating our advisory board now.
Great. Okay, how did you land on your business concepts? Was it a skill set or a passion that came easily to you? And before you started your business, did you feel like an expert already?
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I love sales. I was in sales when I was in corporate America. I knew I was an entrepreneur. I did not know what that was going to manifest, how that was going to look, what the career path or product was going to be, but I knew I had adopted that spirit from my father. And then I was selling my home, and my broker called and something happened. He couldn't be there. And so I had to meet the client to sell my house. And y'all know I sold that house and got a great deal on it. And I'm like, wow, you know what? I really enjoyed that. I can do this. And it started with my home. And so I said, okay, yes, Lord, I can do this. Here we go.
That is such a good story. I think you look for the problem, right? Look, when you're starting a business, you have to be passionate about the problem or else you won't make it through.
Totally. Yeah. You do. It's too hard. So you got to really care about it, right? For me, I was a working mom during COVID, kids at home Zoom schooling for a year and a half. It was brutal. My husband was building his brand new business. He was never home. And so I decided to look for a full-time assistant for me to help me with my personal life. Well, I posted it on all these sites like Indeed and Facebook and LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm looking to hire a personal assistant for me. Literally no one applied. No one applied. Apparently I sounded a little difficult and demanding in my description. But this was during COVID. I was willing to pay $25 an hour in 2020 to do this. No one applied. Oh, except for like some random guy in the Philippines who reached out to me. But the cool thing was, and this is how the idea came up, listen to the market, right? Look at what people need. I had all of these working moms start commenting on it going, I need that too. Oh, I didn't realize somebody else needed that. I thought I was the only one who felt like they were failing and needed help with all this stuff. But I don't need full-time. Could we share? Could you send me your second or third candidates? Well, I didn't even have a first candidate, right? And then all these stay-at-home moms started commenting saying, I'd love to help you. I know how to do all these things on your list. I do all of this for my own life and my own family, but I need it to be flexible. I don't want to work full-time. I don't even want to work part-time, right? Like they don't even want to work like a guaranteed 20 hours a week, but if you can be flexible, maybe we can job share. I was like, wait a second. So I got all these women commenting saying they need help and all these women saying they want to help. We need to like match them together, right? What's wrong here? Why is no one doing this? And it was the most organic idea, and it still is. That's essentially still the core of our business model.
Whew. Okay, well, we are over time. I just want to tell you, you ladies are phenomenal. I'm going to show my age. Like Black Rob used to say, y'all are like, whoa. Y'all, amazing.
Here's the truth. Scaling isn't just about hitting revenue targets. It's about building companies that can evolve without losing what made them special in the first place. These founders showed us that sustainable innovation requires three things: clarity about your mission, courage to make hard calls, and consistency in your execution. They're not juggling competing priorities. They've integrated their values into their business models from day one. The takeaway? Growth and authenticity aren't opposites. When you build with intention, they're the same thing. Be sure to check out our other episodes for Big Dipper Innovation for more insights from the leaders shaping what's next.